Hi guys and ghouls, Shadow Rose here. So, I want to talk a little today about Disney. Uh, this particular video, we're going to talk about the live action remakes. Specifically, the one that's supposed to come next, about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay, so first of all, I do not own copyright of anything. And this is strictly about opinions. But I would like to mention that Snow White is a Grimm's Brother fairy tale. It is public domain, so anybody can make a movie about it. They can do anything with it. So, to start off, Disney originally did Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937. It's a long time. It was their first feature film. So it was their, because before that they had all the little short film, what we call shorts. They of his Mickey and the others. They had the Silly Symphonies little shorts, which I love. They're so great. One of my favorite ones is the one about springtime. Love that. The thing about all this is they're doing a remake, as they've done with Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Pete's Dragon, Aladdin, a whole slew of them. And now, the ones I just mentioned were done, they were done almost exactly like the original Disney movie. Well, except for Pete's Dragon, that was set different. It was set in a different time period for one, and the setup for it and the way they told the story was a little different in the background information for the characters, for Elliot and everything. But to me, I thought it was still a really good remake. I mean, yes, hang on, sorry about that. Piece of an eggshell from breakfast. I have no idea. Excuse me. No idea why that just came out of nowhere. It must have been stuck on a tooth or something. I don't know. Alright. Moving on. I just couldn't leave that in my mouth. I'm sorry. It was a weird sensation. Anyway, moving on. However, Aladdin, yes, I know. It's Will Smith is no Robin Williams. Well, duh. But they still kept the storyline and the way it played out pretty much the same. Beauty and the Beast, oh my gosh. Oh! That remake was so good. Emma Watson, you are amazing. Cinderella with Lily James. While not an exact retelling of the original animation, it was still in line with it. You know, it was done slightly different, but it was still in line with it. And honestly, if you go back and compare it with the original story, original Grimm's fairy tale, it actually lines up. That's why I was so happy about when they did the movie Into the Woods, the musical. They had so many bits and pieces from different classic fairy tales, and they told them in the way they were originally written. Because the original, if you have not read an original Grimm's Brother fairy tale, not the Disney-fied, yes, that's a word. Sorry, I'm got a video game playing on my screen at the same time. Not the Disney-fied versions. The original Grimm's Brother. These tales are pretty dark. They are dark. And technically they give you nightmares. And you know why? Because they were cautionary tales. Told the children at bedtime to make them think twice about their behaviors and different situations they may find themselves in. Ooh. Okay, I'm also playing Disney Dreamlight Valley at the moment. And I just got a new thing in my store in the game that I did not have, and it's really cute little bookcase. They were cautionary tales. They were there to provide guidance in a way. Because, honestly, for example, Hansel and Gretel, they just walked up to that witch's. Yes, what their parents did were bad. They shouldn't have dropped them off in the woods, no matter how poor they were. Yes, yes, yes. Different time period, different standards, okay? So you cannot judge by today's standards on that. That was a whole different ballpark back when that story was discovered and written, okay? Because really, that's what these stories were. They were discovered by the Grimm's brothers. They would travel around from town to town and collect folk tales, the local folk tales. And they would write them down, and they go to another town, there'd be another one, but they would find similar stories with different variations. That's, because you have that. Because a lot of small towns a few hundred years ago, they didn't always have books. They didn't always have access to materials for writing books. Or if they did have writing materials, it was dedicated more toward important stuff like bookkeeping and records for births and deaths and all kinds of stuff like that, right? So being an author at the time would have been seen not necessarily as a profitable profession. Some people these days have a hard time getting their books published. Lots of people do. That's probably why there's so many web novels online, different apps for reading free stories. Well, they say free, but really after so many chapters in, then you got to pay to get the coins or do these tasks to get coins to unlock chapters. So not always free. But they're stories that people have written. I've got several, like 10 or 15 apps I read on. But I don't spend money on all of them. I will admit there's only a few of those apps I only have like one story on there that I really am paying attention to that caught my attention. But that's neither here nor there. I usually do the task like check in every day and read for so many minutes, blah, blah, blah. Now, except for web novel, I like them. Their cost of a chapter to cost of coin pack ratio is actually pretty good. Now, they would travel, so Grimm's brothers would travel from town to town collecting these stories because they were told stories, like told around the campfire or at bedtime. Let's start our chat. These were stories that, here's my chapstick. These were cautionary tales. And as they traveled, that feels better. As they traveled, they would find stories that were similar. Because, you would have somebody living in a village and maybe they didn't want to stay there or something happened and they had to move. So they went to another village and they would tell their stories to the people there at that village and yada yada. So things would get spread and also change, not only over time with each retelling from generation to generation, but in moving to different parts. The villain of the story might change from, I don't know, a witch to a demon to a goblin, you never, there's changes. They collected these stories and wrote them down. They were cautionary tales. Now, with Hansel and Gretel, as I mentioned earlier, yes, their parents, not great, but their actions were not great. True. But as they're walking through these woods and they come across a house made of candy, and they just go up and start eating, like, yum, yum, yum. Yes, they were starving, but. And then little old lady invites them in, and then, oh no, we're locked up and chained up being fed to fatten up to be, so she can eat us. It's a cautionary tale. Don't take candy from strangers. Don't go into the house of someone you don't know. Especially when it's a house made of candy in the middle of the woods that are spooky woods that most people won't go into. That whole situation is very suspicious, right? There's all kinds of stories like that. For example, with my brain just went completely blank. And then you have other stories like Beauty and the Beast. While not technically a Grimm's Brothers story, it actually comes from an original French tale called La Belle et la Bête. I believe I pronounced it right. It is a wonderful story. But it too is a cautionary tale. Her father stumbled across a castle in the middle of the woods. Yes, he's running from wolves. He walks in and he's given hospitality. And then on his way out, now there are different variations. Sometimes he gets spooked and he decides to leave. Other times, it's the next morning and as he's leaving, he sees the roses and all. Original story, he had several children. They were down on their luck. He had gone to try in the story I'm most familiar with, he owned ships, and the ships had been destroyed. They had to sell their stuff, move into this little cottage, and start farming and stuff. But then they got word that one of the ships finally made port, but he goes and yes, it made port, but it was completely destroyed, and nothing in the cargo was really salvageable, so it didn't help. So he couldn't bring the gifts that his children had asked for. He couldn't bring them home. But he ends up at this castle in the middle of nowhere, and he is given hospitality. He does not know who his mysterious host is, but it's all very nice. And the next morning he wakes up and his horse is covered in bags of stuff, and he looks in and it's the stuff his children had asked for. He's like, wow. But then as he's about to leave the grounds, he notices rose bushes. He's like, oh, that's right, Belle wanted a rose. And he's looking at these roses. He's like, there's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole wall of them. He's like, well, surely they won't miss just one. I'm sure it'd be all right. And he takes it, and of course, the beast goes crazy, locks him up, but then gives him a choice. He can stay there for the rest of his life locked up, or, because the man begged, right? He begged to be let go of the roses for his daughter. She, unlike the others, she never asked for anything. All she asked, while others were asking for dresses and swords and whatever else, all she asked was for a rose, a simple rose. So the beast, intrigued by this, he says, okay, you can stay here for the rest of your life in prison in my dungeon, or you can go home and send me your daughter who wanted the rose. So the whole thing, from start to finish, it has several things you can learn from it. One, don't take things from people without asking. Two, when you're given hospitality, you return it with common courtesy and manners. 3, you don't judge a book by its cover. Beast was hideous, and he had a temper, but he had a heart of gold inside. He really did. It was just buried under all these bad feelings and a little bit of hypocrisy. Kids, rich dude. But, and he refused to allow the enchantress one night out of the cold. The thing is, it has many things it teaches you, and it can be told in several ways. So, for example, in the Disney version, the beginning's kind of the same, except instead of being locked up because he took a rose, he's locked up because he looked at the Beast didn't want any people there, but the others invited him in and all, and so he locks him up. And then when Beast confronts him, he's like, "What are you staring at? Come to stare at the Beast, the hideous monster?" He's like, No. And poor Maurice, he's trying to explain that he's just simply taken aback by his appearance because he was expecting, well, not that. And Philippe, the horse, gets loose, runs back, and Belle notices him, goes to find her father, and exchanges her life for his and all that. So in a way it's similar, but yet it has its differences. But with the Snow White tale, okay, first of all, I have seen different iterations in movies, in books, and everything. And I should have reread the story before I started this video. I really should have. But my thing is, even if we don't talk about the original Grimm's fairy tale, we talk about the Disney-fied one, the one that came out in 1937, and won a very special award. It was an actual award and then 7 little awards. Shirley Temple presented it to Walt Disney. I mean, hello? This film created such a stir. It was literally like the first of its kind. Not only in the way it was drawn and filmed, but it had sound. There was audio that accompanied it. And not just, because a lot of times, we're talking about a time period where if you wanted talkies, what they were called talkies, it was usually someone off to the side playing a piano with music to whatever was going on. Or there was a secondary reel that played sound while the other played video, and you had to match them up. The thing is, the way Walt Disney did it, the way him and his people did it, his animators, his filmographers, his whole crew, his company, the way they did it was so different. It was so unique. It was new techniques. It was new technology. The way they did it was so different. It won a special trophy. And the story itself is so well done. I know everybody's like, "Oh, she's so silly. Going off with a guy she's barely met for 5 minutes and blah, blah, blah." And the prince technically kisses her when she's dead and blah, blah. Yes, I've heard and read these arguments before. That's beside the point at this moment. The story itself is so well done. And I want Disney to do it like they did with Snow White. I mean, with Beauty and the Beast. And with Aladdin. I want them to do it exactly as it was in the movie, in the original animation, but live action. I've been a Disney fan all my life. I'm a goth. Yes, I'm a goth. And I love Disney. You know why? Because I also have ADHD. I was diagnosed at age 3. So I was diagnosed and put on medicine at age 3. Okay? In the early 90s, that was a big thing. Now, there's a lot more information about ADHD. There's even different types of it that's been categorized and all this stuff. My mom, to get me to be still in one place long enough that she could do housework without worrying if I'm climbing out a window or running or getting into something I shouldn't. Because she literally could not take her eyes off me. If she did, it was not always a good thing. She would sit me in front of the TV and she would put on a movie. Something that would catch my attention. Disney caught my attention. And my mom, I was a late in life baby for her. Surprise, late in life baby. But my mom is very conservative. She was born in 1950. She's very conservative. She doesn't like movies and TV shows that have a lot of cussing or nudity or talk about sex. Like detailed talking. And she is old fashioned. So she doesn't really like the stuff that has like, let me get my initials right, LGBTQ. Yeah, that's correct. I sometimes get the initials mixed up. She doesn't like shows and movies that just like shove it in your face, you know? Which in a way I kind of agree, because it seems like every show nowadays has to have at least 3 main couples that are LGBTQ and like shove it in your face, whether you're... I have nothing against... I'm not against it whatsoever. I do think they should, instead of trying to be so woke all the time, I think they should try to find a balance between between everything. Because, anyway. Now, originally what we were hearing about the new live action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay. To start off, what we know for a fact, Rachel, I don't know, where did I get Michelle from? I don't know. Rachel Zegler, I hope I said her last name correctly, is cast as Snow White. I had to look her up. Okay, yeah. She's done a good bit of acting. I'm not opposed to that. In the role of Evil Queen, we have Gal Gadot. Gadot? I've heard it pronounced both ways, so I'm not 100% sure. If I am saying, I'm going to say Gadot because that's kind of how it's spelt. If that's not correct, Miss Gal, I apologize. Anyway, moving on. I have no problem with Gal being the Evil Queen. Evil Queen is supposed to be obsessed with her looks and all, and well, let's face it, Gal is hot. Great looks. Her voice with that accent. Oh my gosh, come on. Head to toe. She's hot. And I don't know what her parents thought when she was a kid that she was going to grow up to be, but I honestly think she was literally born to be in movies because she's so good. She's so good. I love her. She's awesome. And so we know for sure on that. And since then, there's been other casting members that have been verified. I was literally just looking it up, and now I forgot the rest of them. I apologize. But what we do know is it was supposed to hit theaters in March 2024. Today is November 4th, 2023, by the way, when I'm making this video. It's supposed to hit March 2024. It has officially been postponed until March 21st, 2025. Now, we haven't been given, and Disney has not said an exact reason why they postponed. There are theories. Some are saying it's because of the SAG-AFTRA. Did I get that right? Strikes. And if you don't know what that is, that's where the actors and screenwriters and everybody get together in a group and say, we're not working till we get better requirements and stuff. Now, some people are saying that's why the delay. Because that whole situation still has not been fully resolved to my current knowledge. I understand they're making progress and some concessions have been made, but it's not completely resolved to my current understanding. Other people are saying it's because nobody liked what they were hearing about it, and so they're having to shoot it. What we do know is previously Disney was saying it wasn't going to be, well, it wasn't really going to be Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. It was still going to be called Snow White, but it wasn't going to be Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Instead of Seven Dwarfs, it was going to be 7 magical creatures. There was a on-set picture photo leak that was leaked, showed Rachel dressed as the version of Snow White and 7 people behind her. They were walking down a hill. Of those 7 people, 1 appeared to be a dwarf. The rest were all regular sized people. 1 was a lady. I have no problem with that. But the original story isn't Snow White and 7 magical creatures. It's Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. Now, this is where I completely agree with the dwarf community, especially the actors, and also Peter Dinklage. It's Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. There's supposed to be 7 dwarfs. We've now been giving a picture. Come in. Sorry. We're discussing about the new live action Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. What we've heard. Because, there's all kinds of stuff. Folks, this is ToxicShark, my roommate.
Sorry if I look like death.
He just woke up.
Unfortunately.
So, we now have been giving, so that was the previous leaked photo. Now, Disney has officially released a photo of Rachel dressed as Snow White, like hairstyle, like the exact outfit. And she's inside a cottage setting, and she's surrounded on all sides around her by 7 CGI dwarfs.
Why can't they do the Sleeping Beauty one? That would actually been a nice one.
Technically, they did do Sleeping Beauty when they did Maleficent. And its sequel. It was from Maleficent's point of view, but it was still technically a Sleeping Beauty reboot, a remake, in a way. Because they still told the story of what happened to Aurora while they were telling that.
Hey.
So they've technically done that. But my thing is, they've now released this picture with her surrounded by CGI dwarfs. I don't know if they just did the CGI as a placeholder, or if they're really going to do it as CGI. I hope they don't.
Maybe if I do some digging, I'll probably find some info on it, maybe.
I hope they don't, because, dwarf actors, dwarf and smaller, used to be, I know it's not PC, but used to you could call them midgets, but now it's a whole politically correct thing. You cannot call them that now.
Yeah, that's true.
It's, I believe that, what is the current? Is it little people? Is that the current
little
term?
People.
Is that the current term?
I've heard it before. I don't want to be 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either.
No. Because I know it is illegal to call a little person midget. I know that's true.
Well, technically speaking, from a medical standpoint, that is the truth. I mean, a dwarf, from a medical term speaking, is someone who does not exceed the height of 4 foot 10 inches. 4 foot 10.
I think Google might know, but I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Like I
now,
said.
you can still call a dwarf, but you can no longer call a midget.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the current term is little people.
Mm-hmm.
I may be wrong. Because they keep changing the terms of everything.
This is me basing it off of, what's it called? Tearing off Game of Thrones.
Oh,
look. I love doing that.
Played by Peter Dinklage. Yes.
Yeah, whenever that aired, though, I remember something being him saying little people. He never said midgets. He always said little people. So I'm basing it off of what I saw in the show.
And we all know, we've all seen the scene from the movie Elf where he says, "Call me Elf." One more time. He's an angry. He was amazing in that scene. And I do know that some people of that stature do get offended being called an elf. But a dwarf does not exceed the height of 4 foot 10 inches. Now, my mom is almost technically a dwarf because she's 4 foot 11 inches. That's how I know the terminology and the requirement for it.
Dang, I didn't even realize that. Yeah,
once my mom got full grown, 4 foot 11 inches. Although now I think she's older. She's in her early 70s now. I'm pretty sure she's shrunk, so I think now she would qualify.
Okay, real quick, off topic of this real quick.
Oh, yes.
I actually have a question. I've been hearing our pet, he's been whining like
yeah, he's not feeling great.
Yeah, and I've been wondering about that. I mean, I let him in my room one time, but
he's part of that. He's wanting affection, and a part I think his tummy doesn't like him right now.
Oh,
but no. So I agree. If it's called Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, it needs 7 actual dwarfs.
Well,
because the dwarf community does not get enough film roles as it is.
Technically, they can't change the titles since it's an actual official remake. Because
well, before they were billing it as just Snow White.
Yeah, that's what they keep it as.
From what I've seen, it's still being billed as just Snow White.
Yeah, so if they change it, technically it won't be a remake. It's just gonna be.
Well, it wasn't. I know they were calling it a remake, but before, when they were saying it's gonna be Snow White and 7 magical creatures, because there was an actual interview where they had Gal and Rachel together and they were talking and they're like, well, you gotta be quiet, gotta hush hush. We're not supposed to tell a whole lot about it to reveal too much, but it's gonna be more woke. It's gonna be Snow White finding her own courage, her own power, very, female power is what they were allowed to say.
Yeah, because I remember they made like different shows and stuff like Snow White and the Redhead Witch. I remember they made different shows and stuff.
I would not mind if they did a woke Snow White, but don't call it Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs remake.
Yeah, no. If they do that, they'll be breaking...
To me, that's not a remake. To me, that's a whole nother story. That's a completely different story.
I think that they'll be technically breaking the law on that one.
No, because Snow White is a Grimm's Brother fairy tale. It's technically public domain. Anybody can make a movie about it.
Well, actually, the debate is still out on that.
No, it's officially public domain. It has been for many years.
What I'm afraid about seeing is when they try to do the Hercules live movie. Oh, Lord, man.
Only if they have James Wood play Hades again.
I love that.
Please. And Paul Schaefer for Hermes. We need Paul back as Hermes.
And all of a sudden, whoa, is my hair out? I love that part.
Yes. But no.
All you see is Pegasus just go up. And then Hades is... I almost did that voice on point, too. He was
you were just about there.
I was like... it was close. All you hear is just Pegasus is... Whoa, is my hair out?
James Wood is an amazing actor, and I would love to see him reprise that role.
I would love to see him do Hades again, man. I mean, that reminds me...
If not him... Then bring the guy who did Hades in the Disney Descendants third movie.
That reminds
he did really well.
If I'm correct, if I'm correct,
somebody.
If I'm correct,
I forgot the rest of his name.
If I'm correct, on Xbox there is a game. I forget. It's that Disney game that your husband got me addicted on. Oh, I can't remember the name. It's Disney. I think Disney Racers or something.
Disney Racers. I haven't played it yet.
Okay, so I'm trying to unlock Hades right now, and Lord, the lines they give him: "We kiss, we schmooze, we race, and y'all let me win, and I have the day. Thank you, bye bye."
So like his original line,
it's his original voice too.
It's James Wood's voice.
Yes, it's his original voice. And what I love though is that they have so many different lines. There's one on there where there's one line on there. Yeah, there's one line on there where when you play as Hades, and like if you hit somebody with the item, all you hear is Hades say, "Yeah, feel me, Zeus," and Zeus is just looking at him down when you're on Olympus, just like
I bomb like what?
He's like, and then what's messed up? There's actually a time it's a luck chance. If you're on Mount Olympus, and you're with Hades, and let's say you, one of his abilities is whenever he gets mad, he shoots out his firebolt. But if you're playing Hades, when the storm happens, instead of a fire, he ends up getting a lightning bolt in his hand, and Zeus gets mad and tries chasing you with him.
We're going to have to do a video where we talk more about that game.
I mean, trust me. I can do some
And they've got Snow White in there too, right?
No. Actually, they decided to hold back on Snow White right now. Is it
because of the whole movie thing? Do you think?
No. There is, I think...
is there an official reason or just some theories?
From what I've seen so far, they don't have the resources right now to put Snow White in. I know they put in Beauty and the Beast, Gustav, you see me.
Gaston.
Gaston.
Where'd you get Gustav?
I was double thinking right now.
Okay.
I know. So they got them. It's Hercules. There's Toy Story characters, which is just added in. They added in Toy Story 2 now. Mm-hmm. Let's see. They ended up Aladdin right now. I love how they kept Genie's original voice. They imported it and did an AI fix for it. Which I'm still working on right now because I gotta finish it. I gotta finish it before this month ends, because if I don't, I lose the rest of the rewards.
Oh goodness.
Let's see.
Well, I hate to cut you off on that, but this video is supposed to be about the Snow White.
Well, yeah, but right now though, with what's going on, they've decided to postpone putting in the Snow White characters.
Okay.
They're debating on.
Is it partly a debate on who to include?
Well, yes, I think that's so because
I think
they're limiting.
Because if they do everybody,
they're limiting.
You'd have 7 dwarfs, Snow White, Evil Queen, plus the Prince. So that's like, and if Huntsman if they want to, so that's like 11 characters. That would be a lot.
From what I've seen so far, they've added in. Mostly, the only collage that's big right now is the Mickey Mouse characters, like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, all of them.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to get that
even Steamboat Pete and the Steamboat versions of Mickey Mouse. Mm-hmm. Those are still all included. So that's the only big collage that I've seen so far that they've put. Anything else so far has been mostly 4 characters. For instance, Hercules, you have Meg and Herc, and Hades. Mm-hmm. They haven't decided if they want to put Phil in yet, but they have him mostly as a crew, not technically a full racer.
And speaking of Hercules, we do know that Danny DeVito will be reprising the role of Phil in the live-action film remake, which is so cool. Which is why I'm really, really hoping they'll get James Wood.
They need to get him in. I miss Hades, because Hades was my favorite bad guy. Mm-hmm. Like whenever they did the once in the little dreamlight, or I can't remember if that's the right name for it. The little collage that they did with the 10-year, the 100-year fall.
That the Once Upon a Studio.
Yeah, Once Upon a Studio. That's what it was.
Oh my gosh, that moment! Not just spoiler for those who haven't seen Once Upon a Studio on Disney Plus yet. That moment when Mickey is looking at the picture of Walt, I bawled my eyes out.
Oh Lord!
I blubbered.
And
I did.
What I love,
it hit me right in the heart.
What I love about that scene, is that it also makes a reference.
I'm tearing up just thinking about it.
Nah, well, what's good about that? What reminds me so much about that is that ever since that movie aired, that little short, they on the game Disney Racers. There's actually a challenge that happens every day in a daily, and it said it all started with a mouse.
Oh, that's cute.
It's adorable because you get so many good resources every day just doing the challenge. And all it is you race with Mickey and you end up just going against other players and stuff. And if you get the resources at the end, win or lose. Yeah. But the title, what brings you up, and there's actually a special map if you're lucky to play it. It ends up taking you through the studio itself.
Oh wow!
And it's a sneak chance though because the maps.
It's like this split-second moment.
No, wait. What they have is it's a map itself where it said it all started with the mouse. It's an actual map, and you're racing through the studio, and you end up seeing just all the characters on the walls. But there's also a chance though if you pass by the picture where you see Mickey was, you end up seeing an alternate version where it's him and Mickey just like this sitting next to each other,
like hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Adorable.
But that's not the only one Snow White's not featured in. Even in the one I play, Disney Dreamlight Valley, there is categories in clothing and furniture sets listed for Snow White. But the only thing we have so far is a thing in furniture. It's like way down here too. To scroll. But there's not.
At the bottom.
It's toward the bottom. They have a listing for Snow White in the clothing set, but it says 0 out of 3, meaning there's 0 out of.
Oh, it's a rare find.
Or not 0 out of 3, but 0 out of 0.
It's either going to be a rare find or they had it in the game, but they took it out.
No. I've seen a few other categories that went from 0 out of 0 to having actual numbers, like 0 out of 13 or whatever. See, right there it is. So, under furniture, there's 2 items available. A poster and the magic mirror.
Magic mirror.
But in clothing set, it doesn't have anything listed yet.
They might not have the rights for that yet.
I'm thinking they're delaying it for that. Even in the new content roadmap for it, Snow White isn't mentioned just yet. There's no indication when it'll come out, and I think that goes back into this remake they're doing. I think they're not trying to put her into anything because if they put her in as her classic form,
then it's going to be debatable.
It's going to make people think, well, why not give us a sneak peek of the new thing, which they haven't done yet. But I will say the picture that had been previously leaked of, the one where Rachel's in the foreground, got all the other 7 people coming down the hill behind her. She is dressed completely different in that picture than the one they just released with the CGI dwarfs. She's dressed completely differently.
I don't know. I think
if they want to do a woke Snow White, go ahead and do it, but do it later and as a different thing.
Probably so.
Alright. Alright.
Gonna go wash my face.
And like I said, we can do a video about the Disney Racer game.
Yeah.
Later.
We'll look into it.
So, that was ToxicShark. You can also find him on Twitch. Anyway, there's a lot of it right now is theories or secret insider, anonymous insider saying. The facts we know are some of the casting, and we know they were saying before it was going to be a woke story of Snow White, all female power and all that. I'm not opposed to Snow White getting a female power. You know, kind of, yeah, let's go. I can do this. But we kind of sort of gotten that before with the whole Snow White and the Huntsman film. Duet film. Snow White imprisoned in a tower. In the original animation, you know, she did chores and everything. In Snow White and the Huntsman, she was imprisoned in a tower. The queen was ruling, blah, blah, blah. She manages to get out of the tower. And then she leads a whole rebellion against the queen and all that. If I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while, and I don't think I actually finished it. But anyway, so, but, you know, we've gotten other times where Snow White fought back, you know, took things into her own hands. There's a lovely one that's called Mirror Mirror, had Julia Roberts as the evil queen, and crap, I just forgot the name of the girl who plays Snow White in that. Now, that one, she fought back, and she defeated the evil queen, and at her wedding ceremony, she even defeats her again, technically. You know, she turns the screw just a little bit more. So, there's been other iterations that have had Snow White, you know, like fight back, take back the kingdom, blah, 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 without having to rely on the prince and the seven dwarfs and all. But the original animation is such a classic movie. I want to see it remade in the way they did, same way they did Beauty and the Beast. I want that actual story. Have some scenes that are a little different, sure. They did that with the Beauty and the Beast one. For example, the song. There's a couple songs in there that were definitely not in the original. Forevermore. Was not in the original, and so was that really beautiful one. I just forgot the title. Anyway, there were variations, but overall it was filmed practically scene for scene as the original animation had been. I would prefer they do that. If they want to do a different Snow White later, go ahead. Make it a sequel or something. Or like an alternate, this is what could have happened kind of thing. Don't remake it in this way they talked about and still call it Snow White. That's a whole different thing. Anyway, I got the whole video. Sorry, my whole video got a little derailed. There are theories for why it got delayed from premiering in March 2024 to March 2025. Some people are saying it's because of the SAG-AFTRA strike. Other people are saying because they're redoing the whole entire movie. A anonymous, unnamed insider has said that they're redoing it in the latest article that I saw. They're redoing it so that it doesn't become a flop the way Cats had been. Okay. Side note, I love Cats. The original stage play musical. I have a VHS tape of the original cast. Kim Page and anyway, Kim Page as Deuteronomy, and there's so many great people in that production. I have the VHS tape of it. I watched it a lot growing up. I think it's an amazing one. Amazing, amazing story. And in more recent years, I found it available digitally. Yes, I bought it. And now, the remake they did a few years back, I'm not against Taylor Swift or any of the newer actors that were in it, but they did take it in a way that it wasn't the same, for one. The songs might have been technically the same, but they weren't. Rebel Wilson's bit was really good, but there was so much of the rest of it that I kept being tossed back out of the experience, for lack of better phrasing. You know how when you're watching a movie and you get really into it, and you're like, no, don't go in that door. No! Turn around, the killer's behind you. You know, stuff you get really into and you don't even realize it until somebody else like, why are you acting like this? It's just a movie. And you're like, huh? Oh, okay. And then you like shut up for a minute and then you get back into it and it's like, I couldn't stay in that movie, the remake. I really couldn't. But anyway, my thing, I want to see Snow White and Seven Dwarfs as it should be. Now, a lot of people are like, I know Aladdin got some flack because Will Smith's no Robin Williams. Yes, everybody knows this. Would we have preferred Robin Williams? Yeah. Unfortunately, poor Robin is no longer with us. R.I.P. Such an amazing, wonderful man. But I would like to point out that in interviews and everything, Will Smith said that he in no way wanted to try to do it the way Robin did. He was going to do it. He was going to do it in a different way, but still pay homage to Robin's great role. I've watched it, and he does do a really good job. Is it the same as watching the other with Robin? No. It does give you a different feeling, because Robin became so synonymous with the character of Genie that it's hard to see that character as anybody else. However, I do think that the way Will Smith played the role was well done. But aside from that, the overall movie was almost frame for frame exactly how the animated one had been. They even gave Jasmine a bit more screen time and a whole entire song just for her and stuff, and it was really well done. In my opinion, it was well done. Almost as amazingly well done as the Beauty and the Beast remake. I'm sorry. I'm biased. Belle and Beast are my favorite Disney couple. She's my favorite princess. He's my favorite Disney prince. Yes. And I love the story, because I'm a bookworm too. So, it's my favorite. So I'm a little bit biased, but honestly, you compare it. If you're able to, pop one on the TV and then pull up your cell phone, have the other version playing, and like play them at the exact same time. Almost exactly scene for scene. A few differences, yes. But even those differences are done so well that it flows seamlessly. Like, I don't think I looked away from the screen for a single moment during the first time I watched it. My daughter sat right next to me. I don't think we even blinked. We're just over there like, with the popcorn, like, we didn't even blink. And And if somebody tried to talk to us, I remember my mother was trying to say something, and we both turned and went, shh, and then turned back to the screen. It was hilarious. I want to see that with the Snow White. Now, a lot of people are kind of on the fence with the remakes because of the Little Mermaid one. I agree, it's not an exact remake. It was done differently. Yes, there are continuity questions and explanation questions that don't add up. The answers don't add up. For example, even in the original animation that Disney did, each of the seven sisters or seven daughters of Triton represented a different ocean. This is true. Even back then, each one did. They made it more obvious in the remake in that they literally look like the ocean they're supposed to represent. For example, one of them is supposed to represent Pacific Ocean. One of them represents the China Sea. There's different ones. Like you see one, you're like, okay, that's definitely from like the Norway, Sweden area. That's definitely from like China, Japan, and all that. There's each one visually is so different, and not only the way their tails look. Like, they chose people to cast it so that each one's ethnicity matched the ocean they were representing, but also the fish part of them, that's how I was trying to phrase it a minute ago, the fish part of them matches a fish that would be found in that ocean that they represent. I thought that was great, but so Ariel's played by, forgive me for not being PC, Ariel's played by a black girl. One of her sisters is Chinese. Another is very clearly like Swedish or something. That area. I mean, there's so much variety. And it's like, and then you had the guy playing Triton, and you're like, you could, depending on, you don't see a picture of their mom in any way. You do not see anything to represent their mom in that live action remake. And well, there is no way you had seven girls each looking so different from a single pairing. And it is indicated that they all had the same mom. And, of course, the same dad. So, but we did get confirmation in that about Ursula being Triton's sister. There's been a lot of controversy over that over the years. Is she, because there's always that mention in the original about how she had been in the palace and all this and that, and also why she had such a personalized grudge against Triton, blah, blah, blah. We got confirmation. Now, it was done in the original, from my understanding, it was done in the original Broadway production that they revealed it, but it wasn't put in the movie until recently. And you know what? It tracks. A lot of people are like, how does that work? Because Triton is son of Poseidon, who is the god of the sea. While Triton is the king of the seven seas, Poseidon is the god. And if you look at the classic representations of Poseidon, he was a fish. He was a fish. So. And we don't know for certain that Ursula looked the way she did all that time. We don't know that she always looked like an octopus person. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Maybe the things she did led her down an evil path, and she over time turned into what she became. That's also possible. But remake wise, I've watched it. I love the cameo of Jodie Benson in the movie. That was just so great. And if you don't know where her cameo is, it's the part where lady at the market gives Ariel some food and tells her, here, use this, and she hands her a fork, and then Ariel starts combing her hair. That lady is Jodie Benson. So awesome. And if you don't know, Jodie Benson is the voice of Ariel from the original animation. She has done other work as well, but yeah. So now, throughout that movie, yes, technically it was not exactly scene for scene. The overall was there, though. I have watched it from start to finish. I've watched it. Overall, it plays like the original animation. Overall. Now, you go scene by scene, it's definitely got differences. And for the most part, aside from trying to figure out why does all her sisters look so different if they came from the same parents, aside from stuff like that, it played well. The only thing that really threw me out of the movie experience for that one was the prince. I don't know. I couldn't connect with him. I don't know why. Original animation Prince Eric? Oh. Tell me show me a person. Show me a person, young or old, who doesn't totally he's dreamy. He's awesome. I mean, he's not as dreamy as Beast, but that's my personal opinion. But as Prince, who likes to sail the ocean, he was well done. You connected with him. You felt with him emotionally. In the live action remake, I couldn't connect with him. I really couldn't. So I hope they do better with the Prince and Snow White. I can't even tell you what exactly about the Prince Eric and Ariel in the new Little Mermaid that I can't even give you an exact reason. It's just, I don't know. So, the guy himself seemed to be a great actor. He played the part well. It just, something about the way the part was done, it just, I couldn't connect as well. Even though he got his own song and everything, it just, I couldn't connect. Can't quite put my finger on the explanation of why, but I couldn't. And I would really super love it if, hang on, my hair keeps getting in my face. If when they do the live action Snow White remake, so if you don't know, the original live action animation, while he's never specifically named, it is Disney canon. Original canon. His name is Prince Florian. If that sounds familiar, that would be because if you watch Disney Descendants, King Ben's middle name is Florian. Yeah. It's not a very common name, even as a middle name, unless you're from an area of the world where it is. If so, I apologize. I'm not trying to be insensitive. But I wouldn't say it's probably one of the top 10 names, baby names, you know. But no, his name is Prince Florian. And stylistically, he's drawn in a very soft, handsome way. There's a softness to his handsomeness. Like, he's handsome, but he's not like super rugged or anything. He's kind of that dreamy, soft quality, like, I angels kind of way. More angelic. Again, okay. I wanted, but he didn't really get a whole lot of screen time in the original. Because the original was about Snow White. Yes, he has some screen time when they meet, while she's still at the castle, before Evil Queen tries to officially kill her. And they meet again when he gives her a kiss and wakes her up. That's pretty much the extent of their interactions in that and in most other iterations of the film, of the story. Except for in Mirror Mirror, there was a way more interaction between Snow White and the prince. More time for the prince to be like, oh yeah, she's awesome, I want to get to know her, and then decide I want to marry her. Whereas the classic Snow White kind of goes with the original of the story. What would be the story of the original time period? She was a princess. In the time period that the story of Snow White is traditionally set, princesses didn't get to choose their husbands. Arranged marriages were done. And you were lucky, prince or princess, to even receive a portrait, a painting of the person you're supposed to marry. There were many arranged marriages among royalty where they had no clue what the other person looked like until they got to the altar. Okay? It's a very telling thing. Also, in the original storyline, original Grimm's Brother fairy tale, Snow White was like 13, 14 years old. Disney aged her up. Okay. They aged her up, thankfully. So it wasn't quite so. Yeah. But it's still, she was very young. And her father died when she was young. Her stepmother, who very vain woman who cares about her looks and being the fairest in the land and having and being queen and all this and that. Well, Snow White, when she originally married Snow White's dad, Snow White was a kid. Yes, she had looks, but she was a little kid. And everybody knows, as you grow, you do change in your looks. For example, this here is my natural hair color. This is not what my color was when I was a little kid. I was what you call that white blonde. It's a very kind of pale, kind of buttery kind of blonde. Over the years, it got darker. Through middle school, and most of high school, I was literally what you call dishwater blonde or dirty blonde. And in that, my hair was such a mixture of blonde and going to this color that it was so intermixed that, it has its own name. Now it's all like the same color with slight variations. Whereas before, don't mind that. That's just a bit of dandruff. There, got it. Now I am firmly placed in the brunette section. But I was like so seriously blonde as a child. So Snow White, and as a child you generally have a more rounded out face because you got the baby fat and everything, and you're shorter. You might be a little more round in the shoulders and belly because your body hasn't grown and stretched all that out yet. Side note, if you think your kid is overweight, unless you got a 5-year-old who's like 100 pounds, your kid is not overweight. If your kid is 60 pounds, and most of it is just like well, maybe 60 is a little overreaching for a 5-year-old, but point is, unless their weight is seriously up there, if they just look chubby, don't do anything about it, don't put them on diets, as they grow, they'll stretch, and that chubbiness will go away naturally. Okay? End of side note. Point is, I want to see them do it as it should be, scene for scene, matching up with the original. Some variations, yes. You want to add a bit in? Sure. Do it as the original. And put 7 dwarfs. The dwarf community does not have enough roles to act in movies and TV. They need more roles. Everybody's like, oh, we need to be woke. We need to represent equality. Equal amount of blacks and whites. Have black and white couples. Have Asian and black couples. Asian and white couples. Asian and Hispanic couples. Gay couples. Lesbian couples. Thruples, even. Side note, a throuple is a relationship where it's 3 people. And they're in a committed relationship to each other. So, I know. Everybody, they're all about inclusivity. Well, you know what? Include the dwarfs. Include the dwarfs. Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs is such an iconic movie. And in all the other iterations that I've seen, both animated and live action, because there have been other live actions before, you always have dwarfs. And in the live actions, they were played by real dwarfs. Now, there was an iteration done in early 2000s. Was it 2003, 2004? Somewhere in there. It was one done by Disney called Snow White. Or at least it played on ABC Disney. On Sunday night, Disney movie night. On the Wonderful World of Disney program, which I would love for them to bring back permanently. It was a highlight of our week. Me and Mom sat down and watched every week. No matter what else we had going on. Unless it was like something like Christmas or something. You know, then of course you got distractions. But anyway. Point is, in that iteration, Kristen Cruick plays Snow White. She played Lana in Smallville. Gorgeous lady. She's got those looks that she's beautiful, but kind of like in this more like ethereal kind of way. Less supermodel, more ethereal, you know. She's very beautiful. And, you know, she has naturally black hair, great lips, you know, put a little red on there. Beautiful. And she's in pale skin. So she was really perfect for the role. And she's got this quality to her that she was able to project that kind of innocent, almost naivete that the original Snow White projects. She did it well, but at the same time, like, she had a brain. She wouldn't like, oh, I need to run. Oh my, someone's trying to kill me. Oh, and just stand there. No, Kristen Cruick's version tried to run. In that version, the 7 dwarfs, first of all, weren't sleepy, grumpy, sneezy, all that. They were named after the days of the week. The leader was named Sunday, and there were some very, very notable dwarfs who played these characters. They amazing people. I just forgot their names. Darn. I'm so forgetful today. But one of the so-called dwarfs, the one named Wednesday, was played by somebody else. It was the first time I ever saw Seven Dwarfs where one wasn't a dwarf. He was an average sized person. Now, I do not remember his name, I'm sorry. But he's a really great comedic actor. And the thing that set his role apart was he believed he was a dwarf. When the other dwarves pointed out, oh no, you're really tall, he's like, no, I'm not. You know, like, it's like the parrot, Waddlesworth from 102 Dalmatians. Waddlesworth didn't believe he was a parrot, he believed he was a dog. Well, same with this iteration of Snow White, the character Wednesday, believed himself to be a dwarf. It is explained throughout that he did have dwarf parents, and in reality, we know that dwarfism can, even if you have two dwarf parents, you can have a regular sized child. It's all down in the genetics and how the dice fall, really. So that is how it's explained in the movie, that he's one of the seven dwarfs, even though he's a regular person. His parents were dwarfs. He views himself as a dwarf. And he does this great comedic bit. Oh my gosh, even thinking about it. Oh, okay. I gotta stop. Yeah. He does this great comedic bit where he doesn't run like a regular person. There's a scene where they're all running to try and help Snow White and defeat the evil queen, and they're all running. And of course, dwarves have physical limitations. Dwarfism, a major characteristic of dwarfism is shortened limbs and their shortened arms and legs. Like, they're regular, everything's in place, but they have all the pieces, all the bones, all the organs and everything, but it's short. The legs and arms are shortened, and it is a whole thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I know this may sound cruel, watching a dwarf run is one of the funniest things ever, because it's adorable. I don't know why, but it is. It's adorable. And I'm sorry if I've offended anybody, but it is. It is. Okay, so while all the other dwarfs are running, you have the guy playing Wednesday, and he's running behind them as well. But he doesn't, so he's played by a normal person, but he doesn't run like a normal person would. He runs like the dwarves do. So this guy, somewhere around 6 foot, I think. And so he's got long legs, and he's running like he's got very short legs. So he does this like shuffling kind of run, like he's barely moving the top part of his leg from the kneecap to the hip, it's like not moving. It's like from the knee to the foot is all that's moving, and he does this like little shuffly run. A comparison is think of a kimono from Japan and such. Very tight around the legs, and the ladies can't really run. Have you ever seen a lady in a kimono try to run? Okay, so this guy, he does the same kind of thing. So he does it throughout the whole movie and stuff. And then anytime someone's like points it out, like you can run faster, or you could reach higher than we can, he does like, no, I can't. He does this whole comedic bit. Like he's sunk into his head that he's a dwarf too, and he reacts the same way and stuff. It's really funny. It's really awesome. In that film, even though he wasn't an actual dwarf, the way it was done really well. He was this comedy bit. but he really believed himself to be a dwarf and stuff. So even though it wasn't exact, it worked. They made it work. But even then, you know, in his mind, he was a dwarf. He wasn't a wizard or an elf or a nymph or anything like that. He was a dwarf. So it still kind of counted as a 7th dwarf. With the new live action, it wasn't going to be 7 dwarves. It's going to be 7 magical creatures and all. Okay, if you want to be woke about it, you can do 7 dwarfs, and you can have one of them be a woman, one or more be a woman. You could have some of them be gay. You could do all kinds of ways there, but make them dwarfs. It is Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. That's how it's supposed to be. It's story 101. Now you can take that storyline and do it in different ways. You can have her staying longer with the dwarves before the evil queen finds her, and have her learn some skills. You know, traditionally in the original 1937 animation, the dwarves were miners. They mined for gems in the mine. Okay, well, let's in the Mirror Mirror rendition, they were warriors. Well, bandits, really. They were thieves. But they fought. And before banding together to be thieves, they each one were something different. Or, you know, they each had different professions before that. But because of the laws of the land, things happened. They lost jobs. They had to do what they had to do to survive, right? Well, so there's different ways you can take that. The dwarfs don't have to be miners. They could be 7 dwarf bakers, you know, making great cakes and cookies and all kinds of stuff. Or, you know, I mean, maybe they chop wood. That would actually be very interesting. 7 dwarf woodsmen would be interesting. There's so many iterations. Now, if you want it to be more magical, okay, 7 dwarfs and they got magic powers, but each one has a different kind of power. Oh wait, that's been done. Yes, it has. Look up Happily Ever After. It's on YouTube. Irene Cara, it's an animation. Irene Cara, 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 does the voice of Snow White, and it acts as a kind of sequel to Snow White. Snow White and the Prince are on their way to invite the 7 dwarfs to their wedding, to give them the invitations. They come across Lord Malice, who is the Evil Queen's brother. Of course, the Evil Queen is dead. He's mad about that. He's all upset. Decides to get revenge. This whole thing happens, and the Prince tells Snow White to run and don't look back. Run to find the dwarfs. He'll meet up with her later. Well, he gets knocked out by Lord Malice and all, and anything. Anyway, when she does eventually reach the dwarf's cottage, and it's nighttime, but she passes out as soon as she reaches the door. She wakes up the next morning. She's like, oh, you know, combs her hair and everything. Straightens her dress. When she walks out, though, she's looking for the 7 dwarfs. She doesn't see them. She comes across what are known as the 7 dwarf elves. They are female dwarfs. They work for Mother Nature, and they each have a magic power. For example, Sunburn controls sunlight, light of many sources in its various sources. Muddy has control over the earth, and she can create earthquakes by jumping up and down. It's very funny. There is several. they each have something different. And there's even one, the youngest one, and called Thunderella, and she has power over lightning and thunder. Only she hasn't quite got it down pat. And there's been some mishaps. Quite a few. And so she's up for a review with Mother Nature. Well, and all that. Because the dwarves aren't there, she asked the dwarf elves about them. And turns out the dwarf elves are the cousins to 7 dwarves. That's how they come into it. They end up, Snow White tells them what happened. They're like, well, why don't you come with us to meet Mother Nature? She'll have an idea what to do. And oh my gosh. Phyllis Diller does the voice of Mother Nature. She is so awesome. There's also one of the dwarf elves called Blossom, so she deals with flowers and stuff. She's voiced by Zsa Zsa Gabor. It's so awesome. So they go to Mother Nature and all kinds of stuff, and well, Thunderella has done such a bad job, and the others are always like bickering among themselves, using their powers against each other. So Mother Nature says, well, I've half a mind to take all your powers, not just hers. And a bargain gets struck. If they can help her find her prince and defeat Lord Malice, who does show up at Mother Nature's garden, makes threats and all. He can't defeat Mother Nature. Mother Nature kicks his butt. But, Snow White can't stay there forever. And she's got her prince. She's got to find her prince. So, ends up striking a bargain with Mother Nature. What if the dwarf elves temporarily keep their powers, come with her, help her defeat Lord Malice, find the prince? And if they succeed, then they get to keep their powers. Mother Nature agrees, but if they don't succeed, well, she will take their powers. Although, if they don't succeed, it'd probably be because they're dead. So I guess it wouldn't matter. The point of the story is, there has been a story where Snow White had 7 magical helpers. They were still dwarfs, by the way. Yeah. And they were all female. Snow White and the dwarf elves, all girls, kicked Lord Malice's butt, saves the prince, breaks the curse that's on him, by the way. Saves the whole day and everything. And at the end, Snow White and the prince even invite the dwarf elves to their wedding, along with the 7 dwarfs, of course. They do eventually get the invitation to them. Now, the whole story is well done, but it's a female empowerment kind of story for Snow White, because Snow White has to struggle throughout the storyline to with her emotions and finding courage and not losing hope and all this kind of stuff. She even helps settle a few bickerings among the dwarf elves, and even helps Thunderella find the courage her own courage and confidence in herself, self-confidence, and which helps Thunderella end up controlling her powers better. So I don't know, would that not be considered a woke version of Snow White? I mean, I think it would be. And you know what? It's made in the 80s. The 1980s. You can't tell me that's not awesome. And Zsa Zsa Gabor. Sorry. It's so well done. It's for something that most wouldn't have been considered mainstream movie. It was very well done. And it was both a sequel and yet girl power, which is what I understood they were wanting to do with the live action Snow White remake they're currently working on. Well, technically, girl power version has already been done. Technically, Snow White and 7 Magical Helpers has already been done. Technically. Go ahead, find it on YouTube. It's very wonderful. And there's a wonderful song in there called Love is the Reason, sung by Irene Cara. You can listen to it separately. Wonderful song. And she's got such a lovely voice. But a woke version, to me, that was woke. That would be considered woke, if I'm understanding the whole woke movement correctly. It was definitely very girl power. I want to see Disney do live action Snow White the way they did the live action Beauty and the Beast. Scene for scene, overall, everything was matching. There were some variations here and there, a few things added in and whatnot to give it a little bit of difference and realism, but it worked. They did it right. Do it right on Snow White. Make it Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs with 7 dwarfs. You can make someone female. I don't care. But keep it in line with the original. You want to do a more 21st century woke version? Okay. But don't make it as the first one. Do it later on as, or don't call it Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Or don't even call it Snow White. I mean, it's not the same. What I heard described in the interview by Rachel and Gal, it did not sound anything like Snow White's story. I mean, the whole point of these classic stories is they were cautionary tales. For example, in Snow White, careful who you marry. Don't take food from strangers. Poison apple. Hello. And also to don't blindly trust everybody. Snow White, she saw the good in everybody. She was on the positive side, which is great. But she did this blind trust thing, and that's part of why she was so surprised when the husband revealed it was the evil queen, her stepmother, that wanted her dead. She's like, no, it couldn't be. Yeah, because she was more beautiful than EQ. Now, not the best reason to kill somebody, but, not everybody's brain works the same way. Okay? That is, the original story has teaching moments. What was being described to me in that interview, or not to me personally, but what they were describing in the interview that I watched, that wasn't Snow White. That was going to be some totally different girl power thing. I'm not against girl power based movies. I'm not against Snow White having a whole journey to be a better version of herself. But that's not how the original story went. Not the one that Disney did. You want to make her a little less naive? Okay. Figure it out. But make it good. Make it fit. Okay? Because if you don't do it right, nobody's going to like it, and it will bomb at the box office. Do it right, folks. And I seriously hope the newest picture that they have posted of Rachel dressed as Snow White and surrounded by CGI versions of the dwarfs. I hope the CGI is just a placeholder and not how they're actually going to do it, because that's going to be weird. That's going to feel like Roger Rabbit. It's not. And this is not Roger Rabbit's story, so it wouldn't really work. They sort of they made it work in the Enchanted movie with Giselle. You know, she goes from fairy tale land to real world. So you got cartoon into real life. It was well done. But the crossover between the two, you notice they didn't do the Roger Rabbit thing where you got a cartoon person stand next to a live action person like they did in Roger Rabbit. Or I should say the full title, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. If you have not seen that movie, go watch it. It's hilarious and awesome. Don't Roger Rabbit it with the whole CGI dwarf and a live action Rachel. Live action Snow White. It won't. I don't think that's going to play well. I seriously hope it's just a placeholder just until they get things figured. Also, put 7 dwarves in there. You could change how she meets them. You could change their jobs. Maybe they all have a different kind of job. I don't know. But do it right. You've extended the premiere date for over a year. Do it right. And I think everybody will agree that we want to see it done correctly. We would much rather have scene by scene of it than something totally different. If you want to do totally different, do it later. Do it as a sequel even. But don't do it as the original. Don't do it as the first remake. Anyway, that's my opinion. I hope that everybody understands that it's just opinion. But I hope a lot of people agree we want 7 actual dwarfs in a live action remake. So, if you want to make it woke, there are different ways to do it than changing the whole story into something entirely different. There really are. But this video's gone way longer than I meant to. I will see you all next time. Bye, guys and ghouls.